Welcome back for part 2 of our urban sketching style 1-point perspective piece. Today you're going to need a pencil and it's going to act as a paintbrush. You're also going to need your coffee paint. If you haven't made this before, it's pretty simple. Have your parents brew some very strong coffee and put about a tablespoon in your top jar. In your middle jar, put some more of that same strong coffee in the jar, but then add a little bit of water. And in the third jar, add a whole lot of water, so it's a very weak coffee. You can do the same thing with tea, but when you start to make it for the first time, boil about 5 or 6 tea bags in about a 1/4 cup water and let it sit for 4 or 5 hours. Generally, if you've used black tea, you'll have a pretty strong concentration you can paint with at the end of the time. All right, so we've got our drawing from our last session, and I saw that I made a mistake there. That line wasn't very straight, and I want to fix that. So I'm going to fix that right away. That's a little bit better. And I'm going to take out that line that I didn't like. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to begin to use our coffee to paint the picture. And we're using kind of that loose urban sketching watercolor style. I'm trying to combine two things at once, a very precise ruler style with a very light kind of gentle sketching style. And coffee paint's perfect for that. And we're using coffee paint in these methods because of the quarantine. I don't want to send anybody out to buy anything. You actually don't even need a paintbrush. We're going to do it all with a pencil as a paintbrush. The first thing I'm going to do is take my weakest paint, and I'm going to understand that this is not art grade paper. This is just right out of the printer. It's made to take printer ink quickly, and so it's going to dry quickly, and I'm not going to have a lot of the time I would to kind of make adjustments like I would a proper watercolor paper. But that's going to be fine. We're going to enjoy it anyway. I'm taking just a little bit on my finger, and I'm going to lightly spread it on the paper. And I'm just simply toning the paper. I'm not worried too much about whatever happens. Like I had that little splotch happen, and I'm just going to kind of rub that in. And I'm also going to not put too much down at one time. I don't want to oversaturate the paper and cause it to tear. So just kind of whatever can fit gently on your fingertip, and a few broad swipes, just enough to kind of get that toned. So we're not starting with a stark white piece of paper. And so as evenly as you can lay the coverage, we're going to lay that all the way across. I'll be right back when I'm finished. All right, now comes the part where I'm going to use my pencil as a paintbrush. I'm going to take my top cup that has the most in it, and I'm going to just dip my pencil in it, and the pencil will have just enough on it to begin to make a line. Now, if you're laying it down so much that you've got pencil graphite coming onto your paper, that's a little too heavy. So I'm going to kind of gently add in the coffee just by tracing over those lines I made in the last session on the hills. All right, that's how I want it. Now I had some imperfection there where the graphite kind of smeared into the coffee. I'm just going to simply turn that into another hill in the background. And I'll probably make another hill there. And now what I want to do, oh, let's see, I'll probably make another one. I'm having fun with this background here. All right, so now I've got a lot in the background. Now I'm going to take my middle cup and I'm going to just kind of start sketching in some lines. To give the hills a bit of texture. Oh, I forgot to mention, it might be handy to keep a Q-tip nearby. Sometimes a Q-tip can do a little bit of, quick relief if you get something somewhere you don't want it. Sometimes it can pick it up a little bit. All right, so now I've got my hills in the background. And I'm also going to maybe put in a couple letter V's very lightly to show some birds flying away. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to pick that up, but there you go. Now the next thing we're going to do, you have a choice. You can try this. It didn't work great for me. You can try laying your ruler down slightly below the line you created in graphite and then drag the pencil across. The good part about this is it's going to give you a neater line. But you have to have a lot of patience to accomplish that, and usually it just drips down below the ruler, which I don't particularly want in this case. So instead, I'm just going to have to gently and patiently follow my line using the tip of my pencil. You want to work nice and slowly. And don't rush. I'm going to go ahead and finish out that line and I'll come back when I'm done. The next thing I'm going to do is begin now to cover the road with that center color. And again, not much creativity in play here. I'm just adding coffee on top of the graphite. And if I've made my coffee very dark, it will conceal it. And again, we're using an imprecise technique over a precise one. So just be patient and do the best you can and have fun. All right, I'm going to finish these, and the sidewalk over here, and I'll come back. I am going to try as much as I can to kind of lay a darker amount here and let it lighten up as it goes back. And I will meet you back in a moment. All right, I'm back. I hope you had fun with that and were able to get your lines put in okay. And now I want to start in on the buildings. I'm going to simply do the exact same thing. I'm going to work from the back to the front, placing small amount of coffee over the top of the line to reinforce it. Like that. I'm going to come back. I'm going to go ahead and do both buildings and the windows. I'm going to outline them, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about where we can kind of put some shade into the windows, put some shadow on the ground, and do the trees. I'll meet you back in just a moment. So hopefully that went well for you. Our rigid ruler style that we had at first is now becoming kind of hazy and dreamlike with our urban sketching, as we've used our unpredictable coffee and pencil to begin to kind of bring those lines to life. What we're going to do now is add some shading and add the trees, and let's begin that now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is begin to add in those trees. I'm going to draw a little bit of coffee onto my pencil, and I'm just going to go into these trees. Let's see, I'm going to scooch that over so you can really see, I hope. I'm going to go into these trees with some loose, sketchy lines. And place the trunk there. Do the same here. And I'm going to always be touching down on the right side so that the darkest part of the paint, the coffee ink, happens on the right side. So it kind of looks like it's going to be shade. The sun's coming this way, and then this part is a bit shaded. Again, just kind of keep loose, sketchy lines. As we go back, I think I've got one more little tree back here. All right, and now I'm going to add just a touch of shadow by adding a dot of coffee that I'm then going to scooch with my fingers. Okay, it's not quite picking up the coffee well enough, but hopefully in a second I'll get a nice little dot. You all can watch Miss Jones learn patience on camera today. Okay, so that's not helping me at all. So I think I'm going to dip my finger into my weakest paint, just a touch, and then I'm going to scooch a shadow along these lines. I would have felt a lot more control if I could have gotten the pencil to it, but I couldn't. So anyway, I put the shadows that way, whatever it takes, right? Now I'm going to go into the windows, and I'm going to begin to darken those. And I'm going to want to do slightly different variations of value so it doesn't end up looking like one giant long window. I want it to be 8 distinct spaces. So I'm going to be using pulling from different pots of paint. And in this case, value-wise, I'm not really all that critical of it, because different rooms, depending on what lighting is going on inside, those windows are going to show different things. So it's okay to have a lot of variation in the windows. And again, I'm just kind of using that loose style. Now, true urban sketching, I would be outdoors, I would be actually viewing this. and I'd be sketching what I see. I'm simply kind of borrowing the style because I thought it would be pretty appropriate for this kind of thing. So I'm borrowing the style. But it's not true, authentic urban sketching unless you're out there sketching what's really going on in front of you in the real world. Okay, so I got that. And I think I'm gonna just kind of draw some thin little lines here. Little hatching there. All right, and let's see. Let's do a little hatching to show some shading coming from this building. The danger here is that the pencil, if you start having graphite, so you want to watch for that. You want to make sure this is all just coffee. And then a little cross hatching. I'm going to make my hatch much darker and thicker close to the building. And then let the shadows kind of gently fade out as we go away from the building. All right, and then let's see, let's go over here. And I'm going to do the same things. I'm going to deepen and darken the windows. And that's going to take me a little bit of time, and you've seen me do it on the first building. So I'm going to pause the video and finish that. When I come back, we'll be ready to do just a little bit more shading.